And today is February. Oh, no, it's March 1st, 2023. We're going to consider Genesis chapter 13 and 14 today, as you can see. I'm just going to wait for a minute to get at least one person to come up so that I'm not talking to myself. And although the reason why I'm capturing these images is because I want to just safeguard this journey and this exploration. Oh, here we go. We have someone, at least one person. And to that person, thank you for being here. And thank you for um, going on this journey with me in exploring the holy texts in an Afrocentric perspective. And, so far we have done all the chapters. We're now to Genesis chapter 13 and 14. And this is what we will consider today. A lot of gems in these chapters, a lot of things that are not shared usually, a lot of things that I did not see, despite the fact that I was brought up in a religious environment, or I had access to at least the Christian faith for an extended period of time. Um, that to that effect too, I'm very grateful because it has shaped my character, my knowledge of the scriptures, and navigating them is a little bit much easier when you have a background of at least knowing that how many books are in the Bible, how long has it been written, by how many writers, things like that. They don't come just randomly. You have to be in an environment that will give you that access. And we have seen this information and we have taken it in one way without seeing how this could be taken into an Afrocentric way of looking. So, chapter 13, here it's about Abraham again. Now, Abraham lives Egypt. He goes out and he parts way with Lot. Lot, remember, is his nephew, son of Haran, who was dead when they were back then in what was that region? Haran, right? Now, what happened between Abraham and Lot is that because they got so much wealth coming out of Egypt, they prospered as a result of that. And wherever they got, the land became small and they wanted to expand because Lot's herdsmen and Abraham's herdsmen were now fighting, and he became an issue there. So Abraham comes back to Lot and tells him that, I don't want any fight between you and I. I don't want any fight between my herdsmen and your herdsmen. What can we do? The land is before us. You choose. If you choose right, I'll go left. If you choose left, I'll go right. So Lot um, has really looked at the land. And there is something interesting when he says on verse 10, and Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. That was before. Even as the garden of the Lord. This is the garden of Eden. So the land was like the Garden of Eden. It was green everywhere. Like the land of Egypt, it gives you a glimpse of what Egypt's world was like. It was not in a desert like it is now. It was green. And Lot still had the memory of Egypt. And he says it looked like the Garden of Eden. He never saw the Garden of Eden, probably heard about it through these literatures, but he saw Egypt when he was there with his uncle, and he knew that it was beautiful. So Egypt, ancient Egypt, was just beautiful. And as people of African descent, we can be proud of that. Of course, right now we are not inhabiting that land, but it used to be ours. And Lord just remember that, and it just light that up. So he chose the better land. Now, this is really much of the story in chapter 13. And what you can see from that is an attitude, one from Abraham. This really puts Abraham in a very remarkable position where he knows the land is good. He's been to these places, but he chooses to lose to his nephew. As long as he is alive, he knew that. And just right after that, his promise to be a great nation is reaffirmed by God right after that. And he made the right call in a sense that he saw the winning hand and he could win, but he chose to lose. This is why they call um, Abraham a meek one. Not because he could fight, although we will see what that is about later on, but because he was able to choose a losing hand where he could actually win. And it is an important lesson in dealing with people, dealing with ourselves, dealing with loved ones, dealing with our community, dealing with our country, our continent, our race, humanity. We can, when you know that we come all from the same stock, we consider that if you win, I am still winning as long as I am alive. I know the blessings that are upon me. My stars will be my stars. It's not because of the land. It is because of what is in me that I will let you win. And this made me remember another notion of people who claim to be good. You cannot claim to be a good person when you are not in a position to be bad and choose to be good instead. Good people are really beasts who can put it under control. And that really sets the tone for a kind of society that you build, a society that is self-resilient, a society that is capable of defending itself, or a society that is capable of being dangerous, but chooses to be meek, to be humble, to lose. And we know that, if we go through the race, the war, the culture war, I would say racist war, we as people of African descent, we're losing the game. But we're not losing the game because we are choosing a losing hand. We're losing the game because we're losing the game. And there is no virtue, there is no compliment in that. And so often we are recipient of the charity of other nations, other races, other people, thinking that that is a way to build a society. It is not. We should be in a position where we know we have everything. We know we have all the minerals. We know we have most of the energy. We know we have all of these, but we are not in a position to assert our strength, and thus we are losing because we're losing. And that is not a better position to be. Having said that, you can also make it your aim to always pick the losing hand especially when you know that you will still be okay. And we, as a race, we can still be okay. There is nothing that can destroy really the I'll say the African gene, because it's just too diverse and too powerful to go away. It's been tried. It's not like it hasn't been tried. Many things have happened to the continent, but we survived. Look in South America or in the Amazon. These places were attacked by diseases or by other things, but those civilizations, those people just disappeared. There is nothing. You just see statues of the Olmecs and all that kind of thing, but they just went. Or the Aztec or the Mayan. You don't know them, but Africans are still there. As long as we are alive, as long as we can breathe, we will be fine. But we cannot be in a position to say that when we're not really certain that we will leave, because the game or that is being played is really against the existence of us, and it's been tried, it has failed. And recently there are some other diseases that went through the world, and we're still there. It didn't affect Africa the way it was supposed to affect Africa. Um, and by suppose, it's not like I know, but I'm just saying that it could have been worse. And we should not be sure that the next time it will not be worse, because it's a learning process. Know what is bouncing, know what does not kill us, and go back to the lab, build something else, and come back. But we have to build ourselves in a position where we can say, okay, we choose to lose, but what are the limits of where we cannot live anymore? When it gets to our life, our future, then we say, okay, this is where we draw the line. But we cannot draw any line right now because we have no strength. So that's really what um, is packed in chapter 13, in my understanding. And it is very useful to remember that part, because if you play the same game over and over and over in life in different ways, it gives you also the opportunity to know the game. Because you cannot lose to a game that you're not even playing. Actually, we're not even playing the game. So it is about time that we understand the rules of the game, and our ancestors, through these books, they've put the codes, the messages for us to wake up and say, okay, this is how we have to behave. This is how we have to carry ourselves. But too often we are distracted by things that are really flashy and comes first to mind. Rightly so, because we haven't seen all these things. We haven't been um, associated with these privileges for a long time, and when we see that, it just blows our mind. We come from poverty. We come from nothingness, and that is to our detriment. But we can fix that. We can learn the game, and the game is being explained to us. Once we know we get there, we know that we can we can accept to lose as long as we can survive, and we will survive. I am confident of that. Anyway, so chapter 14, something happened there. There is a battle of the kings in the region of Sodom and Gomorrah. Um, there are fights and infighting, and amongst all that, Lot, who had chosen a green pasture to Sodom and Gomorrah, kind of really um, lost it all because he was captured in these wars and these fightings. But then they took everybody, and someone escaped, came back to um, Abraham. and told Abraham that your brother has been taken. It says here, his brother, not his nephew, because everybody knew that Abraham was treating him like a brother. It was his blood. So what Abraham does, he goes out and rescues his nephew Lot. How did he do that? It is most of the time, the emphasis is made on the fact that Abraham went out and got people and whatever he did and got his nephew out. No. What happened is, and when Abraham heard that, this is in verse 14, chapter 14, verse 14, it says, and when Abraham heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants. He armed his trained servant, born in his own house. He doesn't have kids. 318, and he pursued them into Dan. 318 trained man was there. And I was like, this is funny, because Abraham was literally holding a small army in his compound that was ready to go for battle at a moment notice. That is powerful thing. It is powerful thing in the sense that it gives you a strategy. Remember that Abraham is in this land as a visitor. He's a foreigner, and he's fleeing some other problems that he has, and he comes into this land, and he has an army, and he was led to have that army, which is like, you may have people who have had problems or issues or challenges, wherever they come from. You extend your hospitality to them, and you should be careful, because those very people may become the small army that will tear the country apart. Remember of some countries? That is in our Bible. It happened. And it's a call for cautiousness when we are being kind to other people. You can be kind, but still make sure that you don't invite trouble to your door. In this case, it was in favor of that region or that army or that kingship, to the point where the king of the king of Sodom went out and met him after his return from the slaughter of that army. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High. He came and blessed Abraham, brought gifts, brought a lot of things, and they captured things from those who took Abraham's brother. And Melchizedek says to Abraham, take everything. If you want more, I will give you. Abraham responds in a very interesting way. And here is what he says in verse 23. That I will not take from a thread, even to a scholar, I don't know, shoelech, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thy should say, I have made Abraham rich. This is profound. I'm sorry. I drink a little Abraham is showered with blessings, with all these things from King Melchizedek. And Melchizedek says, "You take it." And he says, "No, I'm not going to take that, because I don't want you later on to go say, oh, I made Abraham rich." And you can see that is very powerful on two levels. The first level is like on the receiving end. You should be proud enough to say, I don't want this charity, I want trade. I don't want aid, I want trade. Because I don't want you later on, whether you are called the internationally BCBC and DCBC, that you have made me rich, whereas I know what I've been blessed with. I don't need that. Thank you. Thank you, but no. Keep it. I will work hard and I will earn my own. And you can see that in Africa, or as people of African descent, we suffer a lot from these. They have their own merits, but this is in the Bible that we all read. Charity is not good. If you're taking charity, if you're asking for money from other countries to help you, you know you are putting yourself in debt. And it's a debt that is very difficult to pay because you can't quantify that. And for that matter, what it makes it even like more hurtful is that the very people who came to conquer you are the ones that are coming back and giving you gifts. Charity now. What else do they want? They got you. On another point, there is another lesson there is what Abraham is able to order through this is like, I don't want you to say that I was made rich by you. But remember, when he was in Egypt, he took whatever blessings that was given to him. And in chapter 12, we saw that we can proudly say that the first financial investment, we'll not call it aid or charity, the first financial investment that the Jewish nation has, we'll say Jewish or Israel, the state of Israel, because we take the country instead of the culture, or all, I'll say no, I'll even go further, all Abrahamic descendants, the first investment that all Abrahamic descendants have had came from Egypt. And here you can say that these 318 trained men are people who came from the gift that was given to Abraham. The first army for the Abrahamic descendant was African, predominantly because he came from Ur with something, but he made welfare when he was in Egypt. Now you can start to see why it is very difficult, no matter how you scream, it is very difficult to have mainstream science teach that early Africa was black. Because if you admit that early Africa was black, you admit that the first investment, the first money that they've gotten, the descendant of Abraham, the first army that they've gotten came from Africa. And it will mean that these Abrahamic religions and descendants owe to the African spirituality, the investments that our ancestors have made through Abraham. We saved Lot from where he was captured, our ancestors at least. And that is not a teaching that you will hear in a church, in a conventional church, or in any mainstream education or conversations, because it's difficult. It's too expensive to utter those words. And if everybody knows that, then we look at ourselves differently. So we can not just sit there and cry about it. That's the game. That's what it is playing. But we are not even playing the game. If we take these lessons, we will learn how the game is played. And we can choose to lose that game, but we understand the game. And the game is very simple here through these scriptures, is that it is very crucial that science or any moral authority will give credit to ancient Egypt, to the black people. Although it is obvious, but any trace of that will be erased. It was still um, it was still alive when Sudan was one country. And I'm not minimizing the atrocities that went against the uh, black Sudanese, but these Sudanese, or the Kushites, were direct descendants of some of the greatest dynasty when Africa was black. But now that it is Sudan is decapitated, the spaces where those pyramids are, because in Sudan there are more pyramids structures than pyramids in Egypt. They were really masters at this. I suggest that the rush that these entities have and the investment that they've made to go into splitting that country into two and taking hostage the black portion of that country is to make sure that these elements or this history is erased. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now, because we know the game, and we have to educate ourselves about the game. And we can choose to lose, but when we choose to lose, at least we know what game we're playing. We're not even playing the same game. Every other nation, every other race is playing the same game. And we are really at the bottom of the food chain. Not that we are eating each other, actually, we are eating each other up. We're killing each other up. But the thing is that when we are at that level of division and infighting, we are the only race that can stop this madness around the world. I truly believe that. It is boisterous and it is probably naive of me to say that, but people feel different things depending on how their consciousness is placed and what they're able to download. I don't see any long-term peace in the world if Africa and people of African descent are not at the center of it, in terms of being in a position where they can choose not only to lose by knowing the rules of the game, but they can also make sure that those who lose are not necessarily uh, I would say extinct, because that is the danger, right? As the terms of the game should be that you can play it as long as you guarantee survival and for the race, but it's really not there. People are talking about nuclear weapons and nuclear war and things like that. It seems like there is an entity that just doesn't want humanity to exist. And we, as people of African descent, we are that counterbalance. We are probably the um, the only thing that can stop that plan from happening. And we have it within us because we're made different, whether we accept it or not. Or, of course, we know we are all created in God's image and that image, but we're different. We're built differently. And I always say that Africa is not the cradle of humanity, but Africa is the place where humanity survived first. Because I do believe that the young address impact theory has solid ground, and there have been um, a history of humanity that has been erased from our memories. We are a species with amnesia, but that amnesia was induced deliberately, and we hold the key to what happened because we, out of those ashes, we came out, we survived, humanity survived and spread out across the globe once again. Okay, we are at our time. We have a wealth gap or racial wealth gap seminar next week. The link is below this. If you're on Facebook, the link is up. If you're on YouTube, the link is down here. Register and come listen to what we can do in order to really put ourselves in a position where we can be playing the game, because the game is played somewhere else, not in talks, not in playing the victim card, not in doing or being in high chambers of prayer all night, all day, but just going through this spiritual journey and finding your own alignment and purpose. That will be something that will go a long way. It's better that than you doing anything else. And with that, I'll say peace out. Till next time.